Welcome to the Broker Podcast with Jack Stapleton, founder, co-owner, and broker of Realty Texas, one of America's most respected independent real estate firms. Early in his career, Jack was named Realtor of the Year, top producer, and helped over 1,000 families buy and sell properties. Later turned industry leader and broker, Jack founded Realty Texas and built it into an empire with over 400 agents, tens of thousands of transactions closed, with billions in production. As former board president, NLS chairman, real estate instructor, software engineer, and technology innovator, Jack knows what it takes to succeed at every level. Everyone thinks they know real estate. Few actually do. This is real leadership and proven results. Welcome to the Broker Podcast.
Welcome to the Broker Podcast. My name is Jack Stapleton, CEO and broker of Realty Texas. And with me today is a very special guest, Leisa Ormsbee, co-owner of Realty Texas. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you for being here.
Well, I wouldn't miss this for anything.
So, Leisa and I started this company together back in December of 2017. We are now in December of 2025. And I know you have some questions that you brought to the podcast and some things that we're going to talk about.
I did.
Good.
Which are over there on that table.
Okay.
Can I grab them?
Yeah.
Okay. So I was thinking, because we have a lot of agents here and I hear their anxiety a lot. So one question that I get a lot is, how do agents avoid burnout, fear, and mental fatigue in this business?
So when you mentioned that we have a lot of agents, we might have some new viewers to our podcast and some new listeners, because this is a podcast, so people can see and hear depending on the platform they're on.
Gotcha.
So we have just recently hit a major milestone for the company.
We did.
Of
400, just over 400.
400 agents, which for us, we had a glass ceiling at 390, and it was a difficult number for us for whatever reason to push through, but we did. And we increased our brokerage over 100 agents in 2025, which was a goal that we had set early on. And we've been working hard to not only increase our agent count, but to help keep the agents that we have through retention and delivering very powerful and strong programs that's going to help keep them grounded and focused on productive things. That's going to ultimately not only give them value for being at the company, but help them focus on income producing tasks and things that's going to help their business. So we started this year, and we might have started it in 2024, but for all intents and purposes, 2025 was really the launch and the uber success of our 8:30 a.m. morning huddle. And our 2 o'clock, or I think it's our 1 o'clock blast lab.
2 o'clock blast lab, yes.
And I know that that's been super helpful for agents just to be able to show up. And once they've shown up, all they gotta do is show up, and they got 4 marketing pieces. So I wanted to give all the listeners just a little bit of a background so they know a little bit more about our company and how large we are and where we are, because each one of these segments might be its own thing. So, and I think that actually plays into a lot of your questions. So ask a question again, if you would, for me.
Sure. So I get questions on, well, how do you avoid burnout and fear and mental fatigue?
Yeah. This is a sales business.
Yes, it is.
And sales is one of those professions where you have to always be on. And you have to be in the mindset of selling continually, nonstop. I think having productive ways to offload the anxiety, the stress that you have in transactions. A lot of transactions are on again, off again, which is a roller coaster for a lot of agents, which delivers a lot of fear. And those agents who are closing only a few transactions a year, each one of them is a larger percentage of the whole, which, really stressful when things start falling apart. And the very nature of what we do is keeping things on the rails, helping be the psychiatrist and the counselor for the clients, and helping calm them down. In all of that, having productive ways of mitigating stress, whether that's yoga, whether it's walking, whatever it is that you do that helps mitigate that stress, but also having a love for the profession and wanting to help people. If you're in it for the money, you're going to burn out quick. If you're in it for the wrong reasons, you're going to burn out quick. If you get in it because you think that it's fun to show properties and think that this is an easy profession and all we're going to do is get in the car and drive around, see beautiful homes, you're also going to burn out quick because this is a profession that is all consuming. It has a lot of anxiety and a lot of stress and a lot of pressure. You have specific regulatory duties that you have to provide the consumer, and knowing what those are, knowing how to gracefully walk a client through a transaction that is going to protect them, and care so much about your client and your profession to learn as much as you can about the profession. I think people get into it and they thought real estate was something other than what it was. So I think the answer to your question is those people who are going to burn out early are going to burn out because they don't love it. And if you don't love real estate, you're probably not going to be successful in the profession because you're not going to be able to find a love for a profession like this unless you just really love it. This isn't a desk job. And I think a lot of agents think that, they're going to get into real estate. And I see these two personality types. I see the first personality type, which is super outgoing. They like to maintain relationships and have, get-togethers, and they like to be social like you. And they do very well in real estate because it's a relationship business. And then you have the other side of it, people who almost like to be their own assistant. They like the back office side of things, doing flyers and doing MLS entry and that kind of stuff. And then they would rather do that than be in front of people. And it's terrifying for them to pick up the phone and call someone. And if you're not a social person by default, then I think that you're going to be continually pushed outside your comfort zone. And I think you're also going to burn out just from the anxiety of ever picking up the phone and making a phone call. So again, the right person in the profession for the right reason is going to naturally help them excel further without getting burned out because they just like what they're doing already. But for those people who are in it for the wrong reasons, they're going to burn out early. And how do you fix that? Well, you're going to have to focus on areas of the profession that match your personality type. So maybe that's short sales and foreclosures, and maybe that's referrals from other agents. On the backside of the business, that's not going to be the front end of what real estate really generally is, which is prospecting, which is relationships. Even then, you can have someone who's been in the business for many years, like yourself and like me, who does, after a while need a vacation. I think the idea that you can live a balanced life is bullshit. I've heard this over and over. I watched a podcast recently. It was actually a master class where a CEO said, there's no such thing as being a business owner or a CEO and having balance. That's just not a thing.
No.
So you just have to figure it out and offload as much as you can, delegate as much as you can, and make sure that, you wake up early every single day, take care of yourself, make sure that you're eating and walking and taking care of your body, and then talking with as many people as you can and just love it. But if you don't love it, you're not doing yourself any favors.
Will that be true in any job, really?
Yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of jobs you can fake it for a couple hours a day to go to work, punch the clock and come home. But this is the kind of job where you're dealing with weekends and after hours, and this job doesn't ever stop. So if you don't like this profession and you're not a people person, you're thrown into this environment where it never ends, and it's just really I think it's gonna take a toll on people. I mean, if you're working for Dell, for instance, you may clock in at 8:30 and clock out at 5:30, and when you're not at work, you're not at work. But when I'm not in real estate, I mean, I'm always in real estate.
Right. There's no downtime.
And it might even be worse than no downtime, because at the hint of downtime is when people start calling you. Going on vacation, you get 2 listings. You think you're gonna spend time with family on the beach, and you're at your laptop. You're on a cruise ship with your family, and you're taking calls and on a laptop. So if you don't love it, then that type of interference in your own natural life is just gonna really stress you out. So I mean, the answer to the question is those people are burning out. What's going on that caused the burnout in the first place? Because those people who thrive on real estate, they thrive on real estate and they don't burn out. So burnout is a sign that, you really don't love it. But again, you still need to be able to, unplug and respect yourself and your loved ones enough to be able to have that real time with your family, whether that's at church, whether that is on a date night, but you do need to have that downtime. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think in summary, basically you're saying setting boundaries to some extent, stress management, which you talked about, and that could be all different kinds of forms that comes in, and also sustainability.
And stress management is not going to the bar and drinking it out.
Well, no, that's a Band-Aid.
Yeah.
Band-Aids don't ever work.
Well, I mean, it makes it worse. Sure.
Sometimes,
Yeah.
way worse. Yeah, but I think I agree. Well, a more positive question.
Okay. I like those too.
What do top producers do differently? Why are they successful then? Like, how did they get to the top? What are the key things that come to mind?
Two things. They do the things they don't want to do first. They understand primarily that you got to do income producing tasks first. They're going to call the client back. They're not going to wait. Those people who procrastinate and say, I could call the client tomorrow, they're the ones that fail. The top producers, the one thing that they do is they don't put it off. When it comes to responding to a lead or responding to a client inquiry, or they know that their neighbor is looking at listing their home, they don't put it off. Because one day leads on to the next, which leads on to the next, and you end up with a client that so many days have gone by that they don't even bother to reach out because either they're embarrassed because they haven't, or B, they just assume that they've already hired someone else. But the top producers, what do? They don't let opportunity slip by. Ever. And the second thing is they focus on income producing tasks, which means that they show up to their open houses and they, are communicating with their sellers. They're arguing with the sellers at the listing table, or at least, fiercely explaining to them why they need to list the property at the right price, and properly pricing the home versus, an agent who maybe is new, is afraid to have a conversation with the seller. They list it high. It just sits there. They don't call the seller. It expires. And so I think having that tenacity of really wanting to close these transactions, taking it upon yourself to immediately call, not putting things off. So for me, it's number one, they don't put things off. Number two, they focus on income producing tasks before the administrative side. And number three, they have a real understanding that this is their income and that they're working hard to make sure that the transactions that they do have are set up for success and they're paving the way to get it to the closing table and not just letting things sit in the state of decay like a listing that's overpriced and just letting it sit there.
Right. So they have accountability systems in place, pretty much. If they see if the market changes, they're going to react to that.
I think for sure that if they see the market changing, that they're going to try to outpace their price reductions to whatever the CMA is showing. But more than that, they're going to list it right in the first place.
Right.
I mean, there are a lot of agents that are not willing to have a tough conversation with the seller at the closing table. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, you're not doing yourself any favors by listing this high, because buyers have choices. And if they have choices, then likely your competition is going to close. And they don't want to have that conversation. They're afraid that the seller is going to bail, hire someone else. And so they just have this thought in the back of their mind that says, well, eventually they'll grow weary of it not selling and reduce the price, when they should be using that as not their default answer, but, well, likely I'm going to get fired and they're going to hire somebody else who's going to price it right. And so if they take that mentality into the listing presentation, then they're going to probably step away from the listing presentation with a sellable listing. But I think the most important thing is, not letting these transactions that they have die in the vine. And that's what happens mostly when people take an overpriced listing. So operating their business with really trying to explain to the consumers what is going to be successful and what they think is probably not going to be successful, and not making a decision for the consumer, but really advising them and being confident with the consumer. I think that can't be overstated.
So that also proves that our top performers are the ones that are well educated. I see, at least here at Realty Texas, they're the ones that come to our business meetings. They're the ones that take the extra education. They don't have to, but they do. They're in a lot of our class that you teach, just to get that. And even some of them have been in the same class multiple times, because sometimes, well, obviously our world is always changing around us. So that's really helpful for them. They're on top of their game, and they know their value as a realtor. And I think that is key. And for some of our newer agents or new agents out there listening, that's one thing we excel in with your mega training that you put together, because that is the key in that whole 12-week process, is to really, when they walk away and graduate from that, they understand what their value is. And that just gives you that power to feel confident and have good judgment when you talk to anybody out there, buyers, sellers, or landlords, or even tenants for that matter.
Yeah, Mega is a 4-week masterclass, 12 sessions. It is supposed to teach them the game from start to finish. I think that's very powerful. I wish that all of our top producers came in and took all the classes, but the reality is that you've got two camps. Some of them do and some of them don't. I can think that our number one, the top producer right now, hasn't taken any of our classes. And I would love for them to come in, but this agent has been, in the business since 2003. So I do see this personality trait in a lot of the top producers, that if there's education out there, I want to take it and I want to know what my competition knows. I think that's probably a really grounded place for an agent to be able to practice from, having a high commitment to education. I think a lot of our agents do. There's certainly a divide between the agents who are working part-time and then are not taking classes, get into their first transaction, and muck it all up. And that's kind of a normal thing. That's why we have a strong mentorship program, so that they can have, oversight and supervision at each one of those transactions, so that they're not cutting their teeth on the consumer, that they're not learning at the consumer's expense, but rather, quite conversely, that they have a very knowledgeable, professional, competent agent walking them through the transaction as that agent is holding the consumer, so that nothing gets missed. But I think that, this question and the question before, what really separates your top producers from those agents who are struggling in the business, it's going to be operating it like a business. It is really difficult for an agent to operate this business part-time. We've got some examples. We've got a few school teachers that are, school teachers full-time and doing more business than some of our top producers. That is true. It is a very rare opportunity type. And I look at her, and what is the element in her that's so special? I've never gotten voicemail when I call her. There's several of them, but they answer the phone. They respond quickly. If I text them, they text me right back. If I email them, they email me right back. They're on it and they're responsive, because a consumer wants someone who's going to respond quickly to them. I read somewhere recently that there's 4 things that consumers want. They want someone who's going to elevate their status, reduce their risk, help them make money, and save them time. And those are the 4 things that consumers are willing to spend money on. And, for someone to take someone seriously, if I'm a consumer and I am willing to compensate my agent fairly for a transaction, $10,000 on a $300,000 home, $9,000 on a $300,000 home kind of thing, then I'm going to expect unfettered access to that professional for the 15, 20, 30 days that I am going to be working with them. And that's a promise I've always made. In fact, I've always told my clients, you're going to get me unfettered access to me in these next 30 days. I might not answer your call immediately, but within 15 or 20 minutes, you'll get a call back from me. Most of the time I do answer the phone, but I might be in the bathroom. But it's not going to be 3 hours, 4 hours, or the next day that I call. I've seen agents and heard agents have things on their voicemail that says, if it's after 5, I'll call you back the next business day. I don't operate my business that way. I know that there are some coaches out there that tell agents to operate their business that way, but I can see that the agents who are struggling in the business, they seem to have that kind of voicemail. But those agents who are closing a lot of transactions, they don't let the consumer fester and, you know, have questions over the evening that turns this little tiny issue into a huge, smoldering nightmare. And then what do? They call other people.
That's it. It's very risky not to answer your phone, and you just said it, because you're giving that opportunity for those clients to say, well, they don't care about me. I'm out. I'm going to go find somebody else.
Or get really bad advice from someone else because they want their question answered.
Or
And now you're going to deal with that too. So both sides of that, 100%. 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else you got?
My last question is why most agents struggle their first 3 years. I have ideas myself, but I'm curious to see what you come up with.
I'm curious what you. I mean, I got some thoughts. So we can do it either way. I can go first, or we can go after you. What do you want?
Okay, we could go 1 and 1. How's that?
I like.
All right. So I think the first one is really income myths. They don't really understand the reality of it. Sky's the limit, but they don't really understand how to manage that. They don't understand it's commission based. They don't understand that they get a split, and then they have to manage the money that they do receive on their split, and that's really that's daunting to them. Write-offs and not spending it all when you get that first commission check, for example. I think a lot of them also feel they're going to make money right off the bat. And I don't know where they get that, except for HGTV maybe, when you watch those reality shows. But sometimes it takes a while because you're ramping up and you're learning the things you have to learn in order to even convert a client and get to the closing table. And I don't think they have a true picture of a timeline for that income. I think that's one of the big ones.
So finding success in the first 3 years and being in the right mindset is two different things. Is your definition of success close a lot of transactions, or is your definition of success that they stuck through it? Because those are two very different things, I think.
Well, I think they all want to close transactions because that's where the money is, right? But what I think a lot of newer agents don't understand is you have to learn. This is on-the-job training, and there's so many things that you have to learn. I mean, we've done it to ourselves, right? When we put out there in the world on Facebook and all our social media platforms, oh, I sold this house in 1 day and got full asking price, but we don't tell the public that took us 200 tasks at least to get to that point. And so the general public out there just sees it as an easy way to make money. And what you said earlier, it is eat, breathe, and sleep real estate. And it's a lot of hard work. It's not rocket science, but you have to understand that you're not just born a realtor. Most people are not. You have to learn a lot of things, contracts, right? All the rules we follow with Texas Real Estate Commission and National Association of Realtors and Texas Realtors, and then your board and your MLS and your broker policies, all the things. And then, of course, just regular laws, local, state, and national. It's a lot to learn right there, relate it to real estate. So I don't think people really think that through about when is the income coming. It could happen very quickly with the right support, but I don't think that's the reality.
Well, to answer the question of the question was, why do I think agents are not successful in their first?
Why most agents struggle their first,
Yeah.
right when they become the first 3 years, usually 2 years or less, is that weeds out a lot of people,
I mean,
sadly.
I think expectation, starting for me, it would be expectation.
Exactly.
Is they get into the profession with with an expectation that they're going to make money. And yes, that should be an expectation, but this isn't the, everything we do is on contingency. We are success-based payment, compensated success-based. An agent can work 120 hours, 500 hours, 10,000 hours and not make a cent, but they have guaranteed expenses, MLS fees and just the pre-license education classes, um, all the things, joining the National Association of Realtors, paying your dues, all the things. So let's say you start from, pre-license and you get to the point where, you get the license in your hand and you've joined the association, you got $3,000 out of pocket on average by the time you get there. Now you're $3,000 upside down starting on day one with no guaranteed income. There's no one paying you a wage. There's no one paying for your gas. There's no one paying for your cell phone. And so now you're going to have to take aftermarket designations because now you have a license and you've taken the education from Trek. You passed your test, but you don't know how to prospect. You don't know how to conduct an open house. You don't properly know how to explain the regulatory forms, like the information about brokerage services in the state of Texas or whatever your agency laws are in whatever state that you're working. You don't know how to work your transaction management platform or how to enter a property in the MLS. So you need all of this additional training. So on day one, now you're signing up for the board, taking new member orientation, learning your code of ethics, learning how to use the MLS, and you're learning all this information at a time where you have nothing yet to apply it to because you don't have a client. So you learn it all. And then later on, you do get a listing. And then you're like, okay, now what did I learn? Because you take all this education and you don't have anything to apply it to, and then by the time that you have something applied it to, you were drinking from a fire hose, and now you need someone how to show it the details about that because you kind of got a general idea of what's to come, but no specific knowledge yet because you haven't done it yet. And then you do finally get your first client, and now who's going to help you? And the Texas Real Estate Commission is very clear that the broker is not authorized to allow that agent to represent anyone until they've closed at least 3 transactions with a mentor. So there's obviously going to be some kind of mentor fee involved. And so the agent doesn't have any value proposition yet. They don't know how to get hired. They don't know how to have a conversation with the client about getting hired and compensation and getting representation agreements signed, all the things. And so you're talking about deer in the headlights every day, perpetually, until they've been in the business long enough where they finally can say, what, I kind of think I got this. But that's not on the first client. That's not on the second client. It's likely not on the 10th client. So in each one of those situations, the agent's thinking every day, is this what I'm going to do for the rest of my life? And I think most agents are kind of got that thought in the back of their mind that says, is this what I'm going to do for the rest of my life? And I think that question, with the uncertainty if they're going to do this or if they're going to be able to find success, they get to year 3. And around year 3, they're like, okay, I can do this. But that's not going to happen in year 1 for most agents. So I think that they struggle in the first 3 years because of the uncertainty, the massive amounts of rejection that they're going to have to deal with by actually having conversations with people that say no, or their best friend hire another real estate agent and it just absolutely send them down for a downward spiral. Their family members are the most difficult people to work with out of anyone. And so that also sends them for a downward spiral. Transactions get to the closing table and don't close, and they lose confidence. And so you really need to have a strong support network at home. And I think the number one thing that I find that agents fail in the first 3 years is because they're supposed to be the breadwinner. The family has taken a chance on them, and they don't. And they do jump into it with both feet, and they don't make as much money as they did in their prior job because they're not making a salary. They're not getting benefits. They're not getting health care. They're not getting, any compensation. And so the entire family is relying on them. And I think they were thinking in real estate school, well, if I just close 1 transaction a month and it happens to be $1 million property, then what? I should make $30,000 a month, and that's $360,000 my first year. It's going to be great. And 4 months into it, sometimes they haven't closed a transaction yet.
It's true. It took me 5 months to get my first one closed.
I always share that story that I just am sort of an anomaly with that because I had, all right. I already had my California real estate license, so I don't know the distance between my first transaction and me getting my license. But my Texas license was literally the weekend that I got my license. I had someone that was waiting for me to pass my test, which was really cool. So I got sponsored, had to finish my new member orientation, and jumped into it with both feet. But it's not common that you're going to do transactions that quick. It's more common that you're going to go get sponsored by a broker. You're going to get into their training programs, and most of the time, the agents had all kinds of confidence and talking a big game in school, in the real estate school. I mean, I was an instructor there, and I saw them talking a big game in class. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to meet this production goal, and they're talking a big game, and then Chuck hands them the license, and all of a sudden they turn pale white, and then they think, now what? I really thought that all I needed was this license and I was going to be successful. And now I have the license and I realize I don't know what to do with this. So the first 36 months, the first 3 years in the business, you're going to be white knuckle if you're depending on this profession to pay for you, pay off and be able to stabilize you. If you've got support at home, I think that's a really big deal because now you're not dealing with the stresses of having to perform and try to learn all of this at once. So I think a lot of people jump into it, they're part-time, and then they gradually kind of ease into it. And I've seen that a lot too.
And I think just as importantly, you've got to pick a brokerage that is going to also give you the support you need.
1,000,000%. The number one mistake an agent's going to make is to go to a real estate brokerage and focus on what their compensation split is instead of what their training and support is, because they need training and support much more than they need what the split is. They shouldn't even be worried about the split, really. They should be focused on, what are you going to do to teach me this business? What are you going to do to put clients in my hand? What are you going to do to help me convert those clients? Because it's almost guaranteed failure throwing someone into an unsupported situation where they have to figure it out on their own. That's almost a guaranteed failure.
100%. Yep. I see that over and over. And I think also time management is a big thing to learn as a newer agent. And I even know some seasoned agents that still struggle with time management, but it's because they never had. I know when I got into real estate, where I landed my first time there, I got some training and stuff, but I didn't have any of the key elements, and I had never been in sales. And so to jump into a career that, oh, guess what? This is a sales job. You have to understand about time management. And that was a hard lesson to learn. Putting things in place, what you talked about earlier, especially with the top performing agents, time blocking, making your calls and don't deviate, and setting time for yourself, don't deviate. And I mean, obviously you have to be a little flexible, but you know what I'm saying? You've got to set your calendar, and it helps you to stay focused, I think. And also it helps you to be able to manage your time daily. And then if you have extra things thrown in, it doesn't feel so overwhelming because you already know, okay, well, I've got this and this will be done and I can push that out later. So that's a big one.
Having accountability. One of the things that we teach in our master class, and you help facilitate that class, so you know it all too well, is being coachable. And some agents are not open to being coached. And so as a brokerage, we have this kind of weird relationship with our agents where on one hand, we have regulatory requirements that we have to supervise them. And on the other hand, they're an independent contractor. And because they're an independent contractor, we can't force them to do anything. We have a policy that says that our policy, there is an independent contractor agreement that is promulgated by the state that most brokerages like ours use that says that they're, quote unquote, in paragraph 4 of the agreement, that they're going to make best efforts to go solicit listings and find buyers for the real estate brokerage, but most of them really aren't making the best effort. I think when you get a real estate license and you're used to working for another company, are you going to be a good boss for yourself? Are you going to force yourself to get up and go to work? People who work from home, man, that's just a recipe for disaster. UPS man knocking on the door, television, laundry, dishes, kids, all the things, those are distractions, and distractions are a recipe for disease in a business. You got to be really laser focused on prospecting, and it's really easy to get distractions at home. I think going to a brokerage that has accountability programs like we have a morning huddle at 8:30 to set your intention for the day and remind you that you can your prospect and where you're going to find your 3 clients today and hold you accountable for those type of coaching programs. Sometimes agents get in the business and they understand that they need a coach and they go out and pay for one.
A lot of money.
And that's sometimes well worth it.
And sometimes it's not the right coaching either. So
I agree.
you don't know what you don't know till you know it. So if you,
But the
or
accountability is
you-
what they need.
that is the accountability.
And so if you got a brokerage that's giving that coaching at no cost, that's great. I do see a lot of agents, the thing about, it's a double-edged sword. A lot of coaches have never sold. So they give advice that sounds good, but it actually practically doesn't really work. So there is that 100%, 100% that exists out there. But sometimes a coach is less about the advice they give them and the push and the kick in the butt that they need to go show up to work every day. Because a lot of real estate is just being in the right place at the right time, having the right conversations with the right people, which means a lot of it could be dumb luck. But it's not dumb luck because they found themselves in that situation. And so if you get up and go to work and be talking with people, wear your name badge, talking to people in the front and behind you at the line in the grocery store, calling every single person you've ever known. I've just jumped into real estate. If you know someone looking to buy, sell, lease a home, your referral would mean the world to me. And letting people know that you're a real estate agent instead of being a secret agent. All of those things are obviously critically important, that the agent know to go to work and not let distractions get out of the way, because I saw what happened during COVID. So many agents just worked from home and we didn't see them for a year. They didn't close the transaction for a couple of years, and then we started seeing them come back. Although, we were teaching a massive amount of classes, trying to get them to get out there and where the people were, they were afraid to do that. So now 2025, 5 years later, we're kind of past that now. I think one thing that society has learned, that working from home doesn't work. And a lot of agents want to work from home. And I think that if you have good time management skills and preface that with, having accountability programs, that's going to help. But if you are not a good boss for yourself, meaning you're not forcing yourself to go to work, you're not going to make money.
Nope. It doesn't just land in your lap. You have to do all the things that are necessary in this every day to stay successful.
You got to get out there and talk to the people.
You got to get up. First of all, get up, get dressed, make your bed.
That's right.
And go to work. And go to work here in our house means join the morning huddle. It's 15 or 20 minutes, and it just sets the mindset of, oh, I'm at my job today. It makes you feel like you're a boss and that you're truly at a job doing what you want to do. And I think that's helpful.
I think having a sense of community is also helpful because, oftentimes people will go to work for a brokerage and they feel like they're competing with everyone.
Yeah. Not here.
Not here.
Everybody, oh my gosh, if you all could have been in the morning huddle today, it was so amazing how everyone it was almost like a love fest. I don't know if that's the right thing to say, but just the camaraderie. And y'all, we are in Houston, San Antonio, Dallas, and Austin. And we have everybody from all the different areas. We have senior agents that have been doing this for over 23 to 25 years. And then we have brand newbies in there. And everyone was just complimenting each other, thanking each other for their input. And some of them are very profound and uplifting every single morning. And that's a talent because, some of us are not morning people, so we may not be that spunky and full of energy. But it was just really comforting for me to hear all of them. Some were even in tears. Like, I love it.
That happens a lot in the
The
morning huddle.
support. Yes. It was amazing. And I feel like everyone should have that opportunity.
I think people need a place to start their day. And in real estate, most agents are waking up in the morning unemployed.
Mm-hmm.
Where are they going to find their next client? And they get into the weeds. They start thinking, too much in one area. I'm going to focus on reels, or I'm going to do only open houses, and they don't know where to go to find the next client. And, yes, I agree that people need to find something that works and go after it and reproduce that. But you also need to try new things. The market's continually changing around you. Most agents are closing less than 5 transactions a year, which I call the low-hanging fruit, because they answered the phone or they called someone back that reached out to them. And that should be the easy fight that you get. And if that's the only fight that you get, it's because you're not going out there and finding the business. You got to find the business. You got to make the reality happen for yourself. People aren't going to come pounding on your door like you think when you get your real estate license that your phone's going to start ringing off the hook. That's just not the case.
That's right.
Only people calling you or trying to sell you something, whether it's sell you leads from Zillow or sell you something. And, spoiler alert, don't pull out your credit card when those people call, because that's not going to help you find more transactions. Your next transaction is likely someone you already know. You likely have the Dunbar's number. You likely have 300 people that you're surrounded with. And your job as a real estate professional is to call every single one of them and turn those people into clients. Figure out some piece of value that you can call, but love on them. How are you? How's the wife? How's everything going? What can I do to help you? By the way, I'm in real estate now. If you know someone looking or if you have real estate questions, I'd love to hear from you. And start farming your own SOI, your sphere of influence. And once, you've called them, you're going to need to call that database, your sphere, at least twice a year, if not a third time a year, sending them messages continually. And then once you're done with that, then go find third parties doing open houses and the rest. But I feel like a lot of the agents who fail in the business, the first thing they do is try whatever they can do to not call their own people. And I don't know what's behind that. I don't know if it's just they can't handle the level of rejection from someone they know, or if it's just they're embarrassed because they don't want to, feel that exposed in front of their people, because they don't have the self-confidence to have a conversation with someone, because they're afraid they're going to get asked a question they don't know the answer and they'll be left embarrassed. I'm not sure, but they're perfectly fine doing open houses and going out and talking with everyone other than the number one referral source of all time, which is your spheres. So you want to go find business, focus on that first. And that's the thing that companies like ours help our agents get back on track, which is, all right, we built technology that will allow you, after you're onboarded, to click one button and automatically imports all the contacts from their phone into our CRM, automatically applies all the action plans. Then we take the data, because we've got the phone numbers, because for whatever reason, humanity is just not caught up with technology, and they're not data entry people's email addresses in their phones. They've got, an emoji for their name, if at all. And sometimes they've just got a long scrolling list of text messages where they haven't even clicked save yet. So it's actually a conversation that's not even in their phone yet. And every time they want to call someone, they go and type in the person's name and text, and hopefully they find the text thread, because they never even bothered to click save, let alone save them and enter their name and their email address. So when people onboard with us, knowing this, it automatically imports every phone number. Then we send their phone number to a third-party data warehouse on the fly using AI and enrich their data with the email address, first name, and last name, and immediately organize all their contacts so that they can push on day one, push the call button on the first person and start calling them, show up on our blast lab, blast out a newsletter, blast out a message that says, I just got my license, or I just switched, so that they can start communicating to a large audience on day one. Because again, most agents, they don't have a database. They don't have even a cell phone contacts with email addresses in it. And on day one, they've got a real estate license and no database. And if you don't have a database, you don't have a business. So companies like ours will really help an agent on day one accelerate their income, because we're helping them put together their business and organizing in such a way that most agents who are really outgoing, they're able to go to a party, connect with people. But those agents, and those are the people who are just the last ones that are going to get a database in order, just not their personality type. And this gives them
Guilty.
a platform where their database is organized for them, so they don't have to do it. So all they have to do is push the call button, versus the other personality type, which is your, blue type engineers, who are going to spend hours doing data entry and making sure that, the first name, the last name is properly capitalized, and their email address is all lowercase, and they're going to really spend a lot of time getting their database in perfect order. And really that perfection, I always like to use this quote, continual improvement is better than delayed perfection. The idea is that they are They are not making continual improvements. They are delaying perfection as long as they possibly can, because really what they're avoiding is getting the project completed and pushed in a call button, because they're afraid to have that call because they're the engineer type and they're not personality type. So both sides of that, the way our system works, will save the engineer the time of actually doing it themselves, forcing them to push that call button and get them outside their comfort level on day one to make the call and connect. And then the yellow personality type, the social one, who's not the engineer type, who probably doesn't have the wherewithal to put the database together in any reasonable amount of time, or maybe get into year 5 and 10 and still haven't done it, will allow them to start from day one operating a referral-based business. Most agents don't think about the end until it's too late, which means they're 5 years into it and they still haven't done a database, and every transaction that they close seems to be a new client because they're not working their past clients to get referrals from them. It's always a new client, the next person. If you close 5 transactions on year 1, you should get 5 referrals from those people on year 2 plus 5 new clients. But if they're continually closing the same amount of transactions and not getting referrals from their past clients, either it's usually because they're not connecting with them, or they're not providing the service worthy of getting a referral for. So I think that, like you said, having the right support, having the right technology, and going to a brokerage that's going to support them really meaningfully with things like the morning huddle is essential in an agent's success, because there's just too many off-ramps for this profession. There's too many areas where you can fail in this profession, and anyone is going to need, most likely, people are going to need someone to help them keep on track. That's why there's 90% washout rate.
Yeah. No, I think that's true. We all need it to some level. I know there's some of you out there, seasoned agents, that think I don't need anybody, but really think about that. Is that really, really true? I don't think so. I know some of the most successful agents out there, they don't need to go into the office every day. They don't need to talk to a manager every day, but I can guarantee you they're the first people that are humble, and they understand this business as a whole, and they understand that they too will at some point need to have somebody help them through some transaction they've never experienced, because every single transaction is like a whole brand new thing.
It's different.
All the players change.
It's like Mr. Potato Head.
Yeah. You can put it together a million different ways.
This type of financing, this type of property, this type of client, it's a whole mixed bag every time.
Is Mr. Potato Head still around?
I don't know. I might have just dated myself.
Yeah, me too.
That's a possibility. But you're right. Every single transaction is a whole new set of pieces that get put together, that the whole now is changed. VA loan, it's going to change on whether you can terminate due to lender appraisal, FHA versus conventional versus a condo, all the things. You need to have a support team behind you that knows all of these different scenarios. They can help an agent close a transaction. One thing that we're really good at here is saving transactions for our agents. We've got a very good management team. Our team lead, Mr. Potter, is fantastic at taking a very calm, structured approach at walking our agents through transactions that are falling apart. And that's often when, agents really come unraveled, because they don't have the answer. Things are falling apart. They feel like they're losing control of the transaction, and they don't know what to do, and their anxiety level hits the roof. And that's when they need to be the most calm and the most cool and collected, because that's when the clients need them to be calm. And if they have their hair on fire and they come into the office, then you got to have that person that's going to help calm you down, get you back focused, and organize and put the transaction back together, and make sure you're having the right conversations with the right people and figure out, why is this falling apart? What's the fix for it? How do we overcome this and move on?
And brainstorming with our management team here, all of them. We have over 150 years of experience just on management.
You don't know what you don't know. And most agents, even if you've closed 10 transactions, which, could be a fairly competent agent at that point, they're going to, most of the transactions that they're doing the first 10 times, they've only done one each. They don't know how to handle a lot of these situations that, you got a buyer that's misbehave, or a seller that misbehave, or someone who doesn't deposit checks on time, or a lender who's having problems getting financing, or an HOA that's, problematic. All the things, they don't know how to handle these scenarios, which means you go to a company that doesn't have support. there's a lot of transactions that you're going to get into that's probably going to lead to a dead end because you didn't have someone who knew how to overcome those challenges.
It's true. I mean, I've heard it over and over. Well, too bad that one didn't work out. Better luck next time.
I mean,
Just take it how you take it, it'll be just fine. Like all the things that you should never, ever, ever have said to you.
It until you make it is just, I mean,
It's the worst.
that should be like a built-in trick violation all by itself.
It's a gate in the code of ethics if you ever say that. Anyway,
I mean,
that's true.
I get that you got to put on a poker face, but you can't cut your teeth on the consumer. You have to be mentored by someone who knows what they're doing. There's the saying I often use, knowledge is knowing that tomato is a fruit, but wisdom is knowing not to put it in a fruit salad. You might logically understand something, but until you've done it before, knowing something and having the wisdom behind it is two very different things. That's why Trek has changed, they haven't really changed the rules, but why they have clarified, the Trek told the brokers, you cannot deem someone competent. You can't let an agent close a transaction without supervision until they're competent. What is competent? And so, they said close one transaction. No, close two. Now they've got us to three because brokers were allowing people to go and help consumers way before they were ready. Cause harm, reputational harm for the agent, damage transactions. I mean, you're dealing with the largest transaction of someone's life. If you are a buyer or a seller, the expectation should be that the agent that you hire is competent and not cutting their teeth on you. And just think how you would feel as a consumer if you found out midway through the transaction that this agent is doing their first or second transaction. It's okay. You tell the consumer, hey, I'm brand new. You're going to get me. And you're going to get me and all my time. And I got 100 years worth of management experience standing behind me that's going to make sure that nothing gets missed. That's okay. But the consumer just has to know. But I think that a lot of agents are, what do you say, fake it till you make it.
Well, I know brokers are saying that.
I know. And trainers and everything else. It's just not how this should be done.
Not how it should be done because you're dealing with people's financial future, their lives. I mean, that's a lot of pressure and you should take that very serious. And, so that's something to consider if you're out there listening and you're getting your license and you're wondering, but there's so many brokers out there. You have to know the questions to ask, which is why Jack does this questions on his podcast to give you some really good, very insightful, deep questions to ponder in your heads and to ask yourself, is this the right brokerage that I'm choosing to go to? Or am I at the right brokerage for that matter? And you've got to have certain things. You've got to have the support. Everybody needs it. I hear over and over, I don't need this. I don't need anything. Well, that's really not true. And then you've got to have the education and somebody who will be there to support you. And I think that's another thing we do really well because we don't just have our head in the sand here at Realty Texas. We pay attention to what's going on in our industry as a whole.
Yeah.
Like Jack's on an NAR committee. He was our vice president for Region 8 for Texas Association of Realtors. He was our board president. He was instrumental in getting our Central Texas MLS up and running. And there's a lot of things that were really amazing about that as well. He was on the board of directors for a long time locally. And same with me. We're both major tree pack investors. In fact, I just got my boots today.
Nice. That's very nice.
And I'm currently on our local board and just staying in the know and understanding what's happening as a whole helps us to understand so then we can share with all of our agents. And I think that also is something you should consider.
We've both been in the business for 20 plus years.
Well, 19 for me. You have been over 20.
And, our Michael Potter, 28 years, Andrew Constancio, 28 years. I mean, it's the number of years of experience in our team. Part of the whole thing is the experience. I think that you're right that, there's a lot that a brokerage can offer. and agents can make a mistake and go to a place based on asking all the wrong questions. I'm thinking
Well,
of a
they
national
they see
brand.
the shiny stuff too, right? And
Well, we got the shiny too, but I think that they they think that because a national brand is a national brand, that that's going to be who's there to could be support them the most. And those are franchises, and every franchise is run a little bit different. And you got to ask the question, what are you going to do to help me be successful in real estate? And if they can't answer that question, and if that question, doesn't end up with an hour and 45-minute explanation of what all you're going to do to help me be successful in real estate, then you're probably at the wrong place. We opened this brokerage after we'd already been top producing agents.
that's right.
You were Realtor of the Year already.
So were you?
And you were top producer, mega top producer. We both had closed upward of 700 properties each before we started here. Now we're up over 1,000 each. The company has closed 10,000 transactions plus $2 billion in production. That level of expertise, top producer. And we opened this brokerage and we said, we're going to give agents what we never had to succeed, because we knew what we needed as a top producer. And that's different from most firms, because most brokers were never top producers. Most managers were never top producers. The only reason they're managers is because they wanted to supplement their income and close a few transactions on the side. So can you get some good information from these people? Yes. Can they teach you how to be a top producer? No, because they've never done it themselves. And that's what's different from us is our entire company is built on the owners who are two top producers and plugged into everything: national, local, state, and national association of realtors, Trek, and all the things, instructor, teaching all of the pre-license and after licensure designations from the National Association of Realtors, as well as teaching in-house under this roof by your broker, code of ethics, contracts, legal 1, legal 2, broker responsibility, all the designations, plus our mega master salesperson training class. Learning from a top producer is teaching you how to do the business. That's invaluable. I mean, that just doesn't exist in real estate. I don't know another brokerage who has a broker who's teaching their agents and spending over 400 hours a year teaching their agents how to do this business. I don't know.
There's no of any either.
Now, there are a couple of brokerages out there like Surrent, who has built a massive brokerage for himself with him at the helm, who's doing phenomenal things, wrote a book, but he's giving his agents sound bites. And I'm not going to say anything bad about him, because I think he's a phenomenal leader and he's built an incredible brokerage. And we would be very excited to emulate the success that he's had. But he's not teaching an 8-hour class to his agents. That doesn't happen. And that is something that we have here separate. So thank you, Leisa.
God, we could go on forever, but we need to get this
For
at some point.
coming and being part of the Broker podcast. If you have questions for our broker, for me, for a question you want to throw at us, email it over to manager@realtytexas.com. Michael Potter will put it in the hat, and he will ask that question live. So if you want to find the Broker podcast, just Google the Broker podcast, and we show up number 1 on Google. We're very excited about that. Number 1 on Google on the 3rd podcast that came out. We're already number 1 on Google, so that is fantastic. Thank you all for taking the time out of your day to listen to the Broker podcast, and I'd love to have you back on the Broker podcast to talk a little bit about why we opened this brokerage and our kind of the culture that we've created on a future podcast. What do you think?
I would love that.
Thank you.
Bye, y'all.
Bye, guys.